Hey there, Georgie here with Ukraine Matters. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. Welcome back from your break. I hope you had a wonderful time meeting some of your relatives or the people that you care. So let's get back into the cycle on what is happening in and around Ukraine. I mentioned in my last stream with James that I had technical issues, so now I'm finally back at studio and I can record this video for you. We have many things to talk about. First one being an absolute banger, and it is discussing the state of the Russian military. I'm pretty sure you've seen this video. If you haven't seen this video, you've been living under a rock, my friend. Degradation of Russian forces is reaching truly new heights, where Russians are now using horses to start assaulting Ukrainian position instead of armored vehicles, instead of nor-armored vehicles, instead of motorbikes, and now we're back to horses and donkeys. And one might think, well, it was just one video. How bad could it be? Well, the truth is, it's not just one video. There are plenty more reports on these horses being used in attacking on Ukrainian positions, and there is additional videos coming up with Ukrainians targeting the Russians riding horseback. I like this last video a lot because here Russian just falls off the horse and horse is like, yep, take that guy. I am off to the races, so to say. And yeah, indeed, this degradation of Russian military is ongoing thanks in a large sense to you, because you're helping the fundraiser and donating to the drones and equipment for Ukrainian armed forces. Now, today, I will not be asking to donate anymore. Today, it is me taking my hat off and saying, thank you very much. Before the new Christmas, I stated that I would like to see over $100,000 be reached before New Year's, and we are well before New Year's. So take your break, enjoy your time. You're doing amazing job. Thank you so much for supporting Ukraine. We will do even more. Today is a very important date for a lot of people in Eastern Europe and for some people in Western Europe as well. Today we celebrate the Happy Soviet Union Collapse Day. At December 26, 1991, the Soviet Union ceased to exist. And this is just a reminder to all of us that the collapse of the Soviet Union was the Great Liberation Day. It was the day when the world was able to breathe a little bit more freely. There is a lot of conversations happening right now where politicians are expressing their fear in Russia collapsing. I just want to underscore that the Soviet Union collapsing has brought world closer to peace. And Russia, being the only part, so to say, of the Soviet Union that is still living by these dictatorial regime laws, is the only part of ex-Soviet Union that is still causing trouble for the world. So I truly believe, as one brutal anti-human regime collapsed, so will the other regime as well, with our continuous effort. But let's move closer to the situation in Ukraine and specifically the front line. There's a lot of events happening there, and we will cover them at the frontline update that will be coming days. But I want to highlight a couple of really important moments. First one is Ukrainians have shown a couple of operations where Russians really tried to utilize the underground pipes to infiltrate Ukrainian positions. Yet Ukrainians, instead of doing what a lot of people were expecting by destroying these underground pipes, instead they are using them essentially as a bait for Russian. So Ukrainians just put surveillance drones and surveillance teams around the exits of these pipes, and they have shown a couple of these events where Russians would emerge from these pipes and then get promptly destroyed. And just on the videos itself, the number of casualties for Russians is counted in dozens. So it has been quite fruitful, and I truly believe that Ukrainians have learned from their previous mistakes, and hopefully Russians will learn the hard way that the pipes are not the way to go. Or I mean, like, maybe they will not learn. Then this is the way to go for Russian. One-way trip, so to say. And secondly, I want to highlight the absolute state of the Russian Navy. The Black Sea Fleet, the absolute terror of the region, they were dominating this situation around the Black Sea in the beginning of the war. Now, in the city of Novorossiysk, after Ukrainian underwater drone struck the submarine, which Russians first denied sustaining any damage, but then kind of started admitting that, yeah, maybe something is not really that well and so on, and essentially trying to make footage just like, oh, it's submarine is fine, just don't look at the back end of the submarine, it is totally okay. And now they basically are pushed all the way back to their own seaport, and they've even sank a couple of barges just to block the entry to this internal harbor where the Russian ships are located. Now, I think this paints the picture really well, that Russians are literally forced to barricade the entrance to their own harbor. This is the state of the Russian military. This is often it's not talked about how hard Ukraine truly dominated the Black Sea. Then obviously a lot of media and I am myself getting a lot of questions asked about the negotiations. And my answer is always the same. It does not matter. Why? Because these negotiations are happening between the Ukrainians and the Ukrainian allies or semi-allies, partners, whatever. So this is basically Europeans, Americans, and Ukrainians are boiling inside of their own little group. Russia has not indicated even 1 inch that they're ready to accept anything. Every public statement that was not from this Dmitriev-Witkov group was very clear that Russia will not be moving any of their goalposts. And overall, it seems very clear that all of this negotiation is just more to kind of discuss in between allies. What do we even want? So basically 4 years later, we're starting to discuss essentially how do we want this war to end. This is all happening for one reason specifically that still makes me mad, because the allies of Ukraine just couldn't really squeeze it out of themselves, the simple words and simple statement, which is Ukraine must win. 3 simple words, yet Ukraine allies were just unable to squeeze them out and believe in a future that they want to see. Instead, we have all of this bullshit. But generally speaking, we need to understand why this is not going to be absolutely acceptable for Russia. Zelensky has actually published the 20-point plan. You can pause here to read through these points. In generally speaking, this is pretty good plan. This outlines a lot of things. Obviously, a lot of this is very high level, so a lot more details need to be involved. But generally speaking, this sort of prepares the condition for freezing the war at the current lines of contact, recognition that Russia controls territories, just kind of de facto, that it is Russian-controlled territory, but not by the law, and then doing all of this shit. So it's a much better plan than whatever was proposed before on the Istanbul, and potentially, if there is referendum, this could be potentially acceptable by the Ukrainian people, mostly because a lot of them do feel that there is not enough commitment from allies, and Ukraine itself just doesn't have the power to defeat Russia and China that supplies Russia with everything. But all in all, it is completely unacceptable by Russians. They already said so themselves. So all of this, as I said, it's more just a circle jerking in between the allies of Ukraine. And that's why I think it's utterly redundant. But in the meantime, Russia is having serious issues with mobilization of forces. Now, we know that Russia has been getting a lot of people from their poorer regions to join the Russian military, but they're hitting a couple of really big stumbling blocks. Firstly, Russia is really focused on financing a lot of their armed forces. All of their forces, like absolute majority, over 90%, are participating in this war because Russia pays good. However, in the latest couple of months, there have been already reduction in payouts, both at first-time payouts and also payouts on death from Russia, which is a first indicator and hiccup that Russia might not be as trusted ally. Here, principle of like, if people believe that Russia will pay, they will join the military. If there is not going to be this rock solid understanding that Russians will pay, even if they will not pay, then it will completely shift the narrative. Secondly, Russia is having trouble recruiting in these poorer regions, mostly because majority of people in Russia are actually located in more developed areas of Russia. So while in the poorer regions there are still a lot of people, it is clearly not the caliber and type of people that Russia needs. So as the time goes by and more Russian forces are getting, let's say, improved, so Russians struggle with the idea that they will need to go into the bigger cities where it will actually start mattering, where people are not living beyond the poverty line. But again, this is a little bit ways off. And most importantly, there was a recent statistic stating that in the latest couple of months, compared to the start of the year, Russia has been having trouble growing their military. At the start of the year, people were estimating that Russian net outflow of forces was roughly 10,000 men. Now, I dispute these numbers, but let's just kind of take this statistic because we're going to compare it to what is happening now. And in the latest 3 months, the same sort of a statistics is showing that it is only about plus 4,000 personnel every month. So we see significant shift, and people are attributing this shift to the efforts of Ukraine, specifically Magyar and his Magyar's birds, that have become the core of the Ukrainian unmanned system forces. And Magyar brought forward the very simple math problem. He stated that if we improve at striking Russians with drones, if we improve our drone capabilities, and we start focusing the Russian manpower, then at some point very soon, we will reach the negative flow of Russian manpower into the armed forces, therefore start reducing the size of the Russian military, creating additional pressure. And it seems that the Magyar's plan is really working, and if now it's already just plus 4,000 a month, then we might see even further degradation of Russian forces as Magyar's birds are expanding and growing their capabilities to strike Russian manpower. We have some incredibly positive news with regards to the corruption scandal of Mindich, where the funds appropriated for providing security to energy facilities in Ukraine were appropriated and corrupted by some of the higher-ups in the Ukrainian government. The Security Service of Ukraine has opened a treason case against Mindich. This is an incredibly important step, mostly because Mindich is a very pronounced figure, is very high up there in the ranking, and more importantly, this now directly ties corruption with treason, something that both, I think, the viewers of this channel and Ukrainians themselves have been asking for. Now, as I say, the next step that I was hoping to get is for Ukrainian special forces to do some kind of operations, even secret operations, to get Mindich back into the country and prosecute him as a traitor. That would be massive win for Ukraine and Ukrainian society, and massive boost to the general longevity and sustainability of Ukrainian morale. In any case, just the fact that there is now a binding of a treason case is already pretty good. Then I want to focus on this article, where Japan truly appeared as, for me at least, the most unexpected dedicated ally for Ukraine and for democracy and what's right. They're aiming to provide Ukraine with $6 billion in 2026, a massive support that no one expected Japan to dedicate so much. Truly, the support from both the government of Japan and people of Japan that expressed their opinions to Ukraine or actually were in Ukraine and did good is truly incredible. So I can say only these simple words. 日本の皆さんのご支援に心から感謝します。 Thank you so much for watching this video. We will see each other a lot during January. I plan on making a lot of videos and I have so many things to talk to you about. Trust in Ukrainian armed forces, support Ukraine. I love you. Slava Ukraini, and I will see you next time.